We've shifted our default. We're no longer available for the unconscious, regurgitated bullshit. Not in our relationships, not in our jobs, and not in ourselves. Hello, beautiful one. This is the Raw and Wild Hearts podcast. I'm your host and guide, Lori Rising, star channeler, transformational mentor, and sacred guide of lifetimes. It is my mission to have reawakened the ancient encoded knowledge, the sacred wisdom, and evolutionary truths that pulsate within every one of our cells. Join me in curiosity, intuitive guidance, and inspirational conversations where I will stand on the precipice with you. We did not come to dim our lights or play small. So I say, let's get to it. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Raw and Wild Hearts podcast. I'm your host and guide, Lori Rising, and welcome to today's very special Blood Moon Pisces Lunar Eclipse episode. It's called Breaking Open. Ooh, the energies. They're actually so freaking yum and so tender and so ready. You are probably going to hear more about my personal journey and heart in this episode than you ever have before, because I'm actually breaking open more than I have maybe ever in this lifetime because of who I am now, because of the version of me that I am and becoming with this new reckoning and revelation. I don't know. I mean, you can let me know, right? If you're a longtime listener, let me know if this is like the most intimate you felt with me, or if you were already in this vibe with me. If you're not a longtime listener, thank you for being here. Welcome. And this is quite the meeting that we will be having, very heart-centered and vulnerable and raw and wild. Also fully vibrational, because I'm not offering a video with this podcast. And let me set some context here. I've been in Colorado for the last couple of days. I came here for the Living Brave live event, which is known as the Burning Man for female entrepreneurs. And it definitely delivered. Little did I know the journey that I would be taking into breaking myself open during this event. Now, I'm sitting in a park in my van back here with the bees like we used to. It's funny. It's like everything is coming full circle, to be honest with you. It's like revisiting the beginning, but in evolution, if that makes any sense, because this is how I used to do the pod in the van for like a year and a half, pretty much in the beginning. And I thought I was bringing my podcast equipment for the possibility of having a rad sit-down interview with one of these powerhouse, badass women that are changing the literal trajectory of humanity. It's a serious vibe, and it is huge. These women are reclaiming wealth in every way, including myself. And many of them are 7, 8-figure entrepreneurs, like lifting the community, lifting humanity, lifting their family, lifting themselves, nourishing themselves in order to serve. And that is the New Earth way, the New Earth business model. And really, it's about community, coming together like this in person, sharing energy, hugging, meeting, collaborating. I mean, this eclipse energy, it is so off the charts in moving beyond isolation, beyond the ego. And I'm seeing this collapse happen real time all around me and within myself. And it's like a freaking party inside. Even when you've gone through the darkest night or the heaviest shadow, or even like what felt like the death of everything yourself, your business, your health, and coming back and staying, holding the mission, investing in the rooms that hold you when you wobble, and staying curious, continuing to seek to reveal the parts that are imbalanced, that are still moving in the old ways, that are still in any kind of control, hustle, grind, comparison, inauthentic energy. But upon waking up this morning at like 5:30 in tears, having this huge, authentic, real revelation, I knew that I brought the podcast equipment to share it with you. I thought about journaling and really getting it out that way. And I was like, no, this is the invitation. And the invitation is vulnerability in clarity. Beyond safety in playing small. And y'all, you know, I'm all kinds of Aries. I never think that I'm playing small. I think that I'm going all out. And yet I've circled this for quite some time, never really being able to pinpoint it. It's like I felt like I was telling my stories. I felt like I was relating to people. I felt like I was sharing in a space that really let people see themselves in what I have overcome, what I've healed, what I've moved beyond, what I've transmuted into gold, into a life that is so aligned and channeled and present. And then this weekend happened. After some breakthroughs along the way, including a breakthrough that happened a couple of weeks ago with one of my mentors. One of many mentors, I will say, that I have heavily invested in to keep me in this soul's contract with humanity. Because I'm so clear and I know exactly what I'm here to do and share and offer and serve. But I wanted out of the resistance. I didn't know how to keep it going when everything kept telling me to shut it down. Yet I wasn't, nor am I open to shutting down the mission, because I know where that would lead me, and I'm no thank you on that kind of separation from the soul. So if you listen to the last podcast called One Decision Away, you know that I had this draw the line in the sand moment where I finally got all on board, got all of my energy back in, stopped fracturing myself and creating this belief of separation from the business and my life and what that meant. So that was a huge relief. And it created a lot of spaciousness in my life to move deeper into where this journey was taking me, instead of just circling in this resistance, which, by the way, is what I do. It's the work that I do with people, is I am able to see the energetic struggle. And once we clear that energetic struggle, the self-integrity, the self-love, the abundance consciousness, it all comes online from that space, from that level of clarity within. So let's fast forward now to Denver. And I really thought I was coming here for the integration day today, post-event. But the energies had so much more in store for me and for the community all around me, because I had this opportunity to invite my girl, Kelsey Isis. You know her, I'm sure. If you're a longtime listener, she's been on the pod a couple, maybe 3 times. She's coming back. And I also knew some other folks that were here and beautiful legends that I'm excited to be in person with. And this whole experience with us was a vibe, and it felt so freaking good. Now, I'm going to take you to some of the speakers that came in to Living Brave Live that really were part of this breaking open for me. And the first one was Mama Gina. I have not followed Mama Gina. I have known who she is, and now I can see why I haven't followed her, because I see where I shut down. I shut down the pleasure portal within myself, in my life, in my intimate connections and relationships. And she would have been calling me out on that, which is exactly what she did in the event. And she was phenomenal. The energy was so high. It was so clear. And it hit me how easily I actually kind of made an excuse for it. I let it go because I decided that I was going to disrupt the old paradigm of dating and relationships. But tagging on to that is this other piece of me that had also decided that there's probably a very small chance that I'm going to meet that person that can match me in the frequency that I now vibrate at. And that's unfortunate that I had created that belief for myself, because it moved me deeper and deeper into a place of self-isolation and away from cultivating and nurturing that kind of intimacy and desire in my life. Now, there have been times over my journey that I'm like, oh, I'm going to open a pleasure portal, right? I'm going to work with pleasure and money together. I'm going to work with pleasure to, drive my business or my energy in certain ways. And I will stick to it for a couple of days. And then it's just easy to let it go, easy to let it fall off. And here's the thing, babes. Everything in our life comes from intention, cultivation, and care. Everything, not just our personal relationships, the relationship with ourselves, the relationship with money, the relationship with pleasure, the relationship with abundance, the relationship with wealth, the relationship with time, the relationship with energy. You see where I'm going, right? And because I shut down romantic partnership and intimacy in that way, shutting down my own personal pleasure was a byproduct of that as well. Now, as soon as I had these big revelations coming up after Mama Gina's talk, I actually went to one of my mentors that I'm going back and forth with, and I was chatting with her about this, and I was like, I can't believe how easy it was for me to just move away from that. And now I'm realizing how much effort it has taken to bring the rest of my experience to life. Now I'm going to get super real and vulnerable with you, because I woke up remembering this from the darkest decade of my soul, when I was starting to have these epiphanies about myself in relationship, myself in the dating world, and how painful it was, especially when I had any kind of intimacy with a partner. And it was like I was addicted. It was like I had this addiction to that intimacy. And then I always ended up making myself wrong or bad for it. And then I always ended up getting, quote unquote, abandoned. And I will tell you right now, if you don't know, I have actually reconciled this abandonment wound, but clearly there's still some lingering imprints and subconscious patterns that are wanting to come out, that are still in those deepest, darkest shadow spaces. So the reality for me is I used to have this addiction to oxytocin. It was like a drug for me. And it was almost like uncontrollable in the way that addiction feels, because I was abandoned as a baby and I was loved. So it was very confusing to my cells and my subconscious. Yet I never got the oxytocin that is so crucial for a very newborn baby who just came into the world. Like literally, that is their entire medicine. That is what sets them up for the rest of their hormonal cascade and literally for the rest of their life. So when I put all these pieces together and found such a deep level of freedom, because it was no longer about me or something that I was doing wrong, that was the beginning of a really big path of healing that did lead me to massive breakthroughs and lineage disruptions. But I'm also now sitting with the reality that it also could have moved me in a direction of disassociation, where I literally just removed myself the entire experience, whether it was going to be challenging or expanding. I mean, dang, maybe I even decided to buy my little piece of land in the middle of nowhere because it fell in line with the direction I was nudging myself toward for more ease. But the reality is, where we're going in the New Earth way, I like to call it the New Earth Soul Flow, but in the energetics first and forward, and the present moment of a co-creative life in ease and balance, pleasure is the portal. And maybe this past year and a half of extreme resistance and challenge and discomfort that literally basically handed me the undoing of so much that I had built up all on my own. It's not the way that we're going. And for those of us that are the leaders, because we are feeling the big things and energies that are coming through, we're tapping in, we're paying attention, we're showing up, we're exploring, we're letting ourselves feel, move, and truly heal these wounds and patterns. I say it all the time. This job is huge. And 2025 is bringing it so that we do it different, because we will, because we know we've shifted our default. We're no longer available for the unconscious regurgitated bullshit, not in our relationships, not in our jobs, and not in ourselves. So this one for me has been pretty sneaky, because it's pretty easy to live without it. It's actually been so easy to turn it off. And I am going to have to be so intentional in turning it on and cultivating it from there. And to be honest with you, I'm excited. I'm like, where will this go? Because when I desire something, I go all in. If there's anything that I have learned from turning on this soul business medicine and this soul contract with humanity, it's to invest in where I'm going, invest in the block or resistance that's now come to light. Ooh, baby. Where I'm going today for this integration of Living Brave Live is with a community that's very intentional at not only exploring places of pleasure and power in their lives, in their businesses, but sharing it in that authentic voice and truth. I'm going to have to let you know how it goes. And so this actually led me to the next breaking open, which was on day 2. And this one really cracked me open when this beautiful couple came on to speak together, and they were talking all about stories and how we share stories for the betterment and impact of the world, and to show others what's possible for them, and how to actually strengthen and expand our message through what we're here to offer in our businesses. And I'm like, I tell stories all the time. I have thousands of stories. And also I can feel where I'm not maybe ever doing the stories true justice, or I'm using my stories in certain places in my business and containers and not everywhere. I very rarely share more of my intimate stories through my social media. It's more for my master classes, or if you're actually going to come into my world, like my masterminds, my online programs, my mentorships. And not only that, but I've actually kind of glossed over the biggest story of all. Like literally the story that everything in this human experience came to and has come from for me. It is the entirety of why I said yes. And now being on the other side of that story is the amplification of it. It's the soul medicine of it. And I live and breathe and share that soul medicine, but I always skip the depth of the story. And so now I'm really sitting in that. You know, I have so often had people ask me to share my comeback story. And every time I've sat down to put it out in the podcast, I've never done it. I've even began a memoir about this story, but I was still so in it at that time that there came a point where I had to just abandon it and leave it in order to heal and move beyond the incredible pain and victimhood that I was still in at that time. And it took me years to actually evolve and be able to talk about it from the new lens and new me, actually from life, because I had decided to die while I was living during this very, very dark decade of the soul. And it was so big that I think sometimes I don't even know where to begin. I don't know if it's like I have to begin with a book for you to really grasp it. I can't even imagine trying to like distill this into bite-sized pieces for social media or an email. And so this is really what I'm sitting with right now, because as I was listening to their story and their talk, I was taking myself back to the moments, like the very pivotal moments when I was in it, when I was so in it that there was nothing else in life or the world. Like I don't remember anything else but the heartbreak, the grief, the tragedy. And there were these two moments that I remember so deeply. And one of them was the moment that my husband at the time walked into the hospital room. And I had kind of become numb before he came in. And I remember, because he didn't go to the hospital with me that night. And when he walked in, I remember the look on his face. It wasn't sadness yet. It was more a look of surprise, shock. And I feel like I could even detect a little bit of like maybe guilt that he hadn't come in and he had went to work that day. And I ran over, I got out of the bed, I was hooked up to machines, and I ran over to him and I hugged him. And I remember just crying so deeply. I remember crying in his shoulder. And I remember the way that his hat tipped off his head, but it never hit the floor. And I just remember being in that moment. And it was like, maybe I died in that moment, even though I had decided to keep living. And there was so much that came after that. There was so much that, again, I don't even know where to begin, because it's like taking you into that would be so sacred and so special and so heartbreaking and so encouraging, especially to see me now and where I am and how I've shown up and brought myself here back to life. back to not only being a part of humanity, but to serving humanity in a way that would require me to show up relentlessly and say yes, day after day after day, no matter how many setbacks, no matter how many challenges, to know that my mission is bigger than any circumstances that I may see or observe around me at any moment. So do I think that that's a story worth sharing? Yeah. And now I see where I have glossed over the depth of where I could bring you for the glory of where we can go. You know, the other moment that I remembered so deeply yesterday as I was sitting in this beautiful crowd of 1,000 women and a few brave, amazing men was the moment that I think I decided that I would live again. And this was probably a couple years after that day in the hospital. And I remember when I was going to sit on my porch swing, which I sat on every day, and I cried in every day. And I'm pretty sure I was probably lighting up a cigarette, which I had so much guilt and shame about because I had never thought that I would touch another cigarette again because I was going to be a mom. And then here I was without my daughter and with a cigarette. And I started crying again. But this time was a little bit different. This time I was so exhausted from crying every single day, crying myself to sleep, crying myself awake, crying throughout the day. And I thought to myself, I don't think this is how life is supposed to be, because it had become so normal for me. Like I didn't know anything other than the deepest well of heartbreak and pain. But at that day, I thought, I think there might be another way. I think I'm not supposed to be like this for the rest of my days. Even though there was a point where I had decided that I would until I could see her again, which meant until the time that I transitioned from this body and this experience. And I believe that was the day that I had decided to save myself, my health, my heart, my life. And that day would actually lead me to leaving my home and my husband and my marriage on a quest. And there's so much more to share about that quest. But what I will tell you right now in this Pisces blood moon lunar eclipse reclamation is that quest brought me here to you, to myself, to my heart, and to guiding and leading those that know that they are the divine disruptors, that they are here to do it different, that they are here to not only experience, but feel and move through the pain, the wounds, the tenderness, the rawness of this human experience, the shadow into the light, the ebbs into the flow, back to the ebbs, into the tides and the waves. Those that know that they are the greatest healer that has ever walked this earth, and they are the ones that hold the codes of their evolution and soul medicine every step of the way. So not only am I here to show how possible it is to come back from the self-proclaimed death, from the edge of death, from the desire of death, to a channeled life of abundance and clarity and divinity. I now believe I'm here to show you how to come back to a life of power and pleasure, to a life that celebrates the depth of every story. And actually this morning, part of the revelation that came through about the biggest story of my life that I tend to gloss over more often than not is that I was trained and conditioned to believe that it needed a trigger warning. And I think that actually kind of turned me off from sharing it, because my experience shouldn't need or warrant a trigger warning. And that in and of itself actually amplifies the subconscious narrative that it should be something shameful or so painful in the dark, in the shadow, in the secret, that women can't handle to hear it when someone else has gone through it. And that completely negates exactly the medicine that helps us heal from it, which is joining together in our stories, sharing the shared pain and grief and ultimate triumph and evolution that comes because we're still here. No matter what we've experienced, we're still here, and we have all of the capabilities within us to move through and claim the healing of them. But when we create shadow in them, secrecy in them, judgment of them, they will always be held in a place of struggle from that foundation. So here we are. And I feel that a deeper mission is bursting through. And I would love to hear from you if you feel the same. I'm also curious if you have stayed in all of this disruptive energy, in the spiral, in the dance that it's continued to carve out for you, maybe in the most excruciating of spaces. And is this Pisces blood moon lunar eclipse blasting away the walls that you may have constructed that felt safe and made it easy to just move in a different direction? Is this initiation bringing you back from where you've come and who you are now? Thank you so much for holding this space, for listening and feeling not only what this means, but where it's taking us. If this episode has impacted you and offered you deeper spaces of contemplation, maybe revelation, please consider giving us a star rating and review and sharing it with one friend that you know has been in the void, the resistance, the breaking down, because she is ready to break open. I have some really exciting opportunities and offers on the horizon, as well as some incredible guests coming on the podcast. So stick around. You're not going to want to miss any of it. This is our time. This is a massive shift in the fabric of our reality. This is an eclipse season that has always been on its way and will be written in the stars for always. And until next time, don't forget to keep looking up.